Hey, Matthew. I appreciate the comment. First, I appreciate you not being ugly about it and just asking. I know you're a Bama fan. And so I would like to try to answer this question as best I can. All right. So what's my take on the new head coach at Bama? So this is my opinion. Not everybody has to like it. I know there's a lot of Bama fans that are going to disagree with me. I like to think that I'm logical and that there's a huge portion of Alabama fans. I know there's a bunch of great Alabama fans that follow me and they message me, they support me, and they agree with me a lot of the times. For those guys, sorry about the other ones. And they'll tell you the same thing. At the end of the day, Bama fans have been spoiled and they know it. And so they think one way, and it's hard for them to think a different way for the most part. So this is just my opinion. You can take it with a grain of salt. But I've had a lot of Alabama fans reach out to me on Facebook, also on TikTok. And just based on the information I'm getting, a lot of them are it goes beyond optimistic about DeBoer, optimistic about, the near future for Alabama's football team. And it's okay to be hopeful. It's okay to be optimistic, but they're going way above and beyond that. A lot of these fans are, and I don't agree with them. I don't think it's a logical way to think. And the number one reason is you're not going to take one of the greatest coaches of all time and replace him. Okay? So I look at a lot of things from the logical sense of where, so, for instance, recruiting. The last 2 years, Alabama has put the most talent on the field than any other team in college football, including Georgia. Georgia's not far behind, but nobody has had the talent top to bottom on their team that Alabama has, especially the last 2 years. How do we know this? Well, you have 4 classes, right? You have a freshman class, sophomore, junior, and senior. Everybody knows that. So you got 4 classes that typically take the field. Yeah, there are some fifth-year seniors, some red shirts, all that stuff. I'm not counting those. Just the 4 classes. Out of the 4 classes that took the field this year for Alabama, 3 of them were not only number 1 recruiting classes in their class, but they were also top 10 recruiting classes of all time. So Alabama took the field this year with 3 number 1 classes that were top 10 all time. All 3 of them were. 2 of them, I believe, were in the top 3 recruiting classes of all time. Okay? That is a ton of talent. Even that being said, Nick Saban still with that talent lost 2 games this year and lost 2 games last year. Now, for a ton of teams out there, if you only lost 2 games per year, you would be pretty excited. I know as a Georgia fan, when we had Mark Richt, that's about how we felt every year. Man, we're close. We're getting there. We might play for one, right? Bama fans don't look at it that way. Bama fans, and deservedly so, they look at it like we shouldn't even have 1 loss. And if we have 1 loss, it's just because we had a bad game or we had a bunch of injuries. We just needed to get healthy, right? It's kind of like how Georgia feels now about their team. So Nick Saban recruiting, who's one of the best recruiters out there these days, put the best talent on the field the last 2-3 years, and he still lost 2 games per year the last 2 years. And you think DeBoer, not you, Matthew, but a lot of these fans think that DeBoer is going to come in and automatically keep up with that or do better. And that's a far cry for me. I feel like right off the bat, you as an Alabama fan can expect probably 3, maybe 4 losses. And it could be worse than that. I'm being very conservative. I think 3 or 4, okay? And the reason I think that is because he's not the recruiter that Nick Saban is. Nick Saban lost 2 games last year with all of that talent. And now Alabama is about to take the field this year without Saban. And then Georgia took Travarius Robinson, who was the safeties coach. He is also arguably, after Saban, Alabama's best recruiter. So you lost your 2 best recruiters. You lost your all-time best coach in college football. You're losing a ton of players. There's been a mass exodus, losing a ton of players. And yeah, you're getting some in return, and they're not horrible. They're 3- and 4-star guys. But even if you didn't lose any of that, Saban still put that talent on the field and lost 2 games. DeBoer's not that guy. He's just not. And as much as Alabama fans want to deny it, he was not Alabama's first choice. It would have been Dabo Swinney. But Dabo Swinney has proven over the last few years that he can't handle NIL and he can't handle the transfer portal. For that reason, and that reason only, he was kind of scratched from the list. In my opinion, he would still be a better choice than DeBoer. Dan Lanning was probably at the top of the list, but as soon as rumors started going out, I'm pretty sure Alabama probably contacted him just to see if it was an option. He immediately shot it down and said, no, I'm not leaving Oregon. You had a couple of other guys in there. Sarkisian, he wasn't going to leave. I believe that Dan Lanning, Sarkisian, and then possibly DeBoer. Maybe. At best, DeBoer was your third choice. For a reason. Now, does he have success? Yes. But it ain't in the SEC. He's bringing in players and coaches from the Pac-12. He's bringing them from Washington. He's bringing them from Indiana. That's not going to compete in the SEC the way that people think that it is. It's just not. You need SEC people, coaches, players. The biggest difference maker between, in my eyes, that's going to be a telltale of what's going to happen this year is the way that DeBoer recruits. He is not a good recruiter at all. Can he do a little bit better in the SEC? Absolutely. Does the name Alabama help him? Yes. Does it make you a great coach or a great recruiter automatically just being at Bama? No. There's a ton of Bama fans that have said, oh, he's going to be much better now that he's at Alabama. Alabama is makes anybody a great recruiter. That's not true. Alabama is blessed and lucky that they had 2 of the best coaches of all time in Paul Bear Bryant and Nick Saban. But if you look in between those 2 coaches, Alabama was not good. They weren't good at recruiting. They weren't good at winning games. And any Alabama fan that's been around since before Nick Saban will tell you that. Just because you're at Alabama, you're not guaranteed success. And just because you're at Alabama, you're not guaranteed to be a great recruiter. The man finished like 40th or 80th 3 years ago in recruiting. And then last year he finished 26th in recruiting. He got better. But then he plays for a national championship and he finishes this recruiting cycle 41st. He lost like 20 spots in recruiting after playing for a national championship. When you play for a national championship, your recruiting should have went up, not down. And all this before Nick Saban left, before he knew he was going to be leaving, he was recruiting, right? He hasn't signed a 5-star player at all. At all. So the people he's bringing in are coming from Washington and Indiana. These are 3 and 4-star players. It's great, and it's good that y'all are being able to fill these spots. But let's face it, if Nick Saban was there, these players would not be playing for Alabama. They're not the caliber players that Nick Saban would typically bring on. Nick Saban would have players that would start and probably be second string in front of those guys. So it's for these reasons I'm just being nice at 3 or 4 losses. I see Alabama losing 3 or 4 games. I don't think this is the coach of the future for Alabama because Alabama fans are not going to accept 2 and 3, 4 losses a year. They're just not. I give the guy 3 years and it'll be somebody else. And I do think that the next hire will be a better hire. It's not going to be Kirby Smart. So all the fans that keep saying that, you can just stop. All the fans that said he was going to go to Atlanta, Kirby's not leaving. He's not even entertaining it. Okay? But that's my take. I appreciate the message. Matthew, I wish y'all all the best, and it should be fun in Tuscaloosa at 7:30 in September for his first SEC.